The forest edge was silent, almost too silent for a world that once sang with life. Trees stood tall like ancient guards, their branches twisted from years of storms. Between them, a narrow stone path led to a lonely platform, broken, cracked, covered with dust and old memories. No one walked there anymore. No one dared, but she did. She stood there every day, every season. Every year, her name was Lyra, a small alien girl with pale blue skin and eyes that glowed softly at night. She looked young, maybe 10 or 11 in human years, but she had waited far longer than that. She stood at the same exact spot, her feet planted on the cold stone as if the ground itself had claimed her. Lyra didn't speak much, but her silence made the place even more strange. The villagers who lived miles away whispered stories about her. They said she was a ghost, or a curse, or a warning from the old war that burned half their planet. Others said she was simply waiting for something that would never come. No one knew the true story. No one knew how long she had been there. But Lyra knew every single day. Behind the platform, on the ground, she had carved small marks with a broken piece of metal. Thousands of them. Each mark was one day. Each line was one more hope. She remembered her parents' last words more clearly than she remembered their faces. Lyra, stay here. Do not move. We will come back for you after one sunrise. One sunrise. But one sunrise turned into 10. Then 100. Then years. The seasons changed around her. Rain washed her hair. Storms shook the ground. Winter froze her hands and feet, but she stayed. Her small body grew thin, her clothes faded, and her eyes lost their playful shine. Still, she waited. Sometimes she remembered the warmth of her mother's hands. Sometimes she remembered her father's laughter. But those memories were like dust, they scattered when she tried to hold them. What never faded was the fear. Fear of leaving the platform. Fear that if she moved, her parents might return and she wouldn't be there. Fear that they were already gone, taken by something far worse than war. Deep at night, the forest would make strange mechanical sounds. Lyra heard them every few weeks. Heavy metal steps crushing the soil, gears turning like something large, searching for something small. She always hid behind the broken stone pillar until the sounds passed. She knew what it was, the collector. She remembered it from the day her parents disappeared. But she forced those memories deep inside her mind, because thinking about that day only made her heart hurt more. Years passed. Lyra grew a little taller, but not much. Hunger made growth slow. She stayed quiet, still, frozen in time, until one evening, when the sun turned the sky orange and pink, a sound echoed through the trees. Not the sound of a machine, not the sound of an animal, but the sound of footsteps, soft, careful, human footsteps. A man named Evan, a traveler from a distant human colony, slowly walked toward the platform. Dust covered his jacket, and his backpack hung loosely on one shoulder. He had lost his map 2 days ago and wandered into the forest by mistake. He stopped when he saw her. A young alien girl standing alone, staring at him without blinking. Evan felt a chill run down his spine. She looked like a statue at first, too still, too quiet. He raised his hand slowly, trying not to frighten her. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked gently. Lyra didn't move, didn't answer, didn't even breathe. She had seen humans before, soldiers, guards, scouts, but none of them spoke to her. All of them ran away the moment they saw her glowing eyes. This was the first time someone stood still. The first time someone spoke kindly. Evan tried again. "I'm lost. I don't want to hurt you." His voice was warm, not sharp like the voices she remembered from the war. Lyra's fingers twitched. Her lips parted slightly. She whispered her first words in years, her voice soft like a weak breeze. "Did my parents send you?" Evan felt his heart sink. Her voice carried pain he had never heard before. He stepped closer, slow and careful. "No," he said softly. "But where are they?" Lyra looked down. For the first time in a long time, she blinked. "They told me to wait here. And I did." She pointed at the thousands of carved marks behind her. "I didn't move. Not even one day." Evan stared at the marks. His chest tightened. This child had waded through storms, cold nights, and danger. Alone, before he could speak again, a faint mechanical sound echoed through the forest. Lyra froze instantly. Her eyes widened with real fear. Evan turned to. The ground vibrated slightly. Something heavy was moving toward them. Lyra whispered one word. "It's coming." And Evan realized he wasn't just talking to a lonely girl. He had walked into the middle of a nightmare she'd been trapped in for years, and now it was coming back for her. Evan had heard strange stories about abandoned war zones before. But nothing prepared him for the fear he saw in Lyra's eyes. It wasn't a normal fear. It was the kind someone carries for years, heavy, cold, and always waiting to return. The sound in the forest grew louder. Metal scraping, branches snapping, ground shaking. Whatever was coming was big. And it knew exactly where to go. Evan stepped in front of Lyra without thinking. He didn't know who she was, or what exact danger she faced, but something inside him refused to let a child stand alone. "Stay behind me," he whispered. Lyra stared at the back of this strange human. No one had ever protected her. No one had stood between her and the darkness. Not since her parents disappeared. She didn't understand why he stayed. Most humans turned and ran the moment they saw her glowing eyes. But Evan didn't run. He didn't even step back. The machine's shadow grew between the trees, long, sharp, moving like a beast shaped from metal. A single glowing red eye scanned through the forest. Lyra trembled. Evan felt the air go colder. "What is that thing?" he asked quietly. Lyra swallowed hard. The Collector, that name alone carried years of pain. Evan didn't know the details, but he didn't need to. The look in her eyes told him everything. Whatever the Collector wanted, it wasn't human. It wanted her. The machine stepped into the open, tall as a small building. Its legs were like metal spears, digging into the earth. Pipes ran along its body, glowing faint blue matching Lyra's eyes. Evan whispered, "Lyra." "Why is it here?" Her voice cracked. "It took my parents. It always comes back to check if I am still here." Evan felt anger he couldn't explain. This child had been hunted for years. That wasn't fate, that was cruelty. He grabbed Lyra's hand suddenly. "We need to move." Lyra froze. She hadn't touched another living being in years. Her fingers were cold and thin, but Evan didn't let go. "We stay here, we die. Come with me." She hesitated, then nodded. One small nod that changed everything. They ran together into the forest. Evan dodged branches, pulling Lyra close so she wouldn't fall. Behind them, the Collector let out a mechanical roar, deep, metallic, and angry. The ground shook as it began chasing them. Evan didn't have a plan. He didn't even know where he was running. But anything was better than letting that machine reach her. Lyra's breath came fast. She wasn't used to running. Her legs were weak from years of standing in one place. I can't." "Yes, you can," Evan said firmly, supporting her. "You're not alone. Not anymore." They stumbled through thick trees, climbed over fallen logs, and pushed through dark bushes. Lyra kept glancing back, terrified the machine would appear behind them. But it wasn't behind them. It was above them. A bright red light shot down from the sky as the Collector climbed onto a massive tree trunk, its metal legs digging into the bark like claws. Evan shielded Lyra from the light. "What does it want from you?" Lyra shook her head, tears forming. "I don't know, but it wants my energy. My kind has something inside." She tapped her chest, "And it wants it." Evan took a deep breath. "Then we make sure it never gets you." He scanned the area and spotted an old bunker half covered by vinza, left over from the old war. There, inside. They ran toward it as the collector jumped down from the tree, crashing into the ground with a metallic thud that sent dust into the air. Evan threw open the bunker door and pushed Lyra inside. She stumbled, but made it down the steps. Evan jumped inside after her and slammed the metal door shut. The machine's heavy footsteps echoed above them. Inside, the bunker was dark and smelled like old metal. Broken tools lay scattered on the floor, and old screens flickered weakly. Lyra stood in the corner, shaking. Evan crouched beside her. "Lyra, look at me." Her glowing eyes lifted slowly. "I don't care what that thing is," he said. "I'm not leaving you here. As long as I'm alive, it won't take you." No human had ever said such words to her, not even close. Her tears fell silently, hitting the dusty floor, but their moment didn't last long. A loud metal claw slammed against the bunker door. The collector had found them, and it wasn't giving up. The entire bunker shook. Dust rained down from the ceiling. Lyra grabbed Evan's arm tightly. "Evan, it's breaking in." He stood up, fists clenched, eyes sharp. "Then we fight back, together." The bunker walls trembled as the collector hammered the metal door again and again. Dust fell like snow on Lyra's hair. Evan watched the door bend slightly with each hit. They did not have long. "Lyra, we need to move deeper," Evan said, grabbing a dim flashlight hanging on the wall. Lyra nodded quickly, trembling. She followed him down a narrow hallway filled with rusted wires and broken screens. The farther they walked, the colder the air became. The deeper they went, the more her memories returned, memories she had tried to forget for years. At the end of the hallway, they found a small room with scattered blankets and old ration boxes. It looked like soldiers once used it as a resting place. Evan closed the inner door gently and turned to Lyra. "Tell me everything," he said softly. "I can't help you if I don't understand." Lyra sat on the old metal bed. The springs squeaked under her light weight. She wrapped her thin arms around her knees. For a long moment, she didn't speak. It wasn't because she didn't want to. It was because she didn't know how to relive the memories. But then she lifted her eyes. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper. "My parents were scientists," she began. "They worked with energy that comes from inside my kind. Something rare. Something powerful." Gava knelt down beside her, listening carefully. "One day, humans came to our world. Some were kind, but others wanted our energy. They built machines to take it. Machines like the one outside." She looked toward the shaking door as the collector hit it again. "That is why they call it the collector." She closed her eyes, the memory stabbing through her chest. "They took many of my people. My parents tried to stop them. But when the soldiers found us, my parents hid me on that platform." Evan's breath tightened. "They told me, Lyra, wait here. Don't move. We will return after one sunrise." Her lips trembled. But they never came back. I saw the collector take them. It dragged them inside its body. And then it left. She wiped her tears with shaking fingers. And I stayed. Because they told me to. Evan felt something heavy drop into his heart. A child had waited 6 years because she believed her parents still lived. But the world had moved on. Except her. "But why didn't you leave?" he asked gently. "Why stay there so long?" Lyra looked down at her hands, small, cold, fragile. "If I leave," she whispered. What if they return? What if they look for me and I'm not there? Her voice cracked as more tears rolled down her cheeks, and I had nowhere else to go. A long silence filled the room. Evan couldn't find words for the sadness he felt. He sat next to her slowly, careful not to scare her. "Lyra," he said softly, "you didn't do anything wrong. You were just a child. You trusted your parents. Anyone would." She looked up at him, eyes filled with years of loneliness. "But now it comes back every few months," she whispered. "It checks if I am still there. It wants the same thing it wanted from my parents. Energy. My kind has something inside our hearts that humans cannot create, and it wants to steal it." Evan asked. She nodded. "It needs someone young." "Someone like me." Before Evan could speak, the hallway outside shook violently. The collector was breaking through the first door. Metal screamed as it tore off its hinges. Lyra jumped up, terrified. "It's coming closer." Evan grabbed an old rifle from the wall. It barely had any power left, but it was better than nothing. He pointed it at the hallway, heart pounding. "Lyra," he said without turning, "look around. See if there's any way out." She searched the small room quickly and found a maintenance hatch on the floor covered in dust and sealed for years. "Here," she called. Evan rushed to her. Together, they pulled the hatch open. Cold air burst out from the underground tunnel. "Go," he said. "I'll follow." Lyra climbed down the ladder first. When her feet touched the lower ground, she looked up at Evan. "Evan, why are you helping me? I'm not human." As the collector smashed the inner door, Evan closed the hatch above them and whispered through the darkness, "Because no child should face the world alone, not even on another planet." The tunnel went dark as he jumped down beside her. Above them, the collector roared. But below the surface, they had one more chance to escape. The tunnel stretched into darkness like a long forgotten road beneath the world. Its walls were cold and wet, and the air tasted like rust and dust. Lyra and Evan moved quickly, guided only by the weak flicker of Evan's flashlight above them. The bunker shook violently. The collector had broken through the second door. They could hear its metal claws, scraping across the floor, searches for a path, searching for her. Evan glanced at Lyra. "Keep moving. Stay close." Lyra nodded, her small hand gripping the edge of his jacket. She had never expected to run for her life with a human at her side. For years, she thought humans were the reason her world fell apart. Now one was fighting to keep her alive, but the tunnel wasn't quiet for long. A deep mechanical hum echoed from behind them. Evan froze for a second. "Don't tell me it found the tunnel entrance." Lyra's glowing eyes widened. "It always learns. It always adapts." Evan didn't know much about alien machines, but he understood danger. "Then we'd go faster." They hurried deeper into the tunnel. The ground sloped downward, and the air grew colder as they descended toward the forgotten underground. Suddenly, Lyra stopped. "There's something ahead," she whispered. Evan raised the light and saw a huge door built from thick metal. Strange symbols, alien writing glowed faintly on its surface. "You can read that?" he asked. Lyra stepped forward, brushing her fingers against the symbols. "This is my people's language," she murmured. "It says, emergency refuge chamber." Evan raised an eyebrow. "A safe room." "Maybe," she said softly. "Or maybe something from the old war." Before they could decide, the tunnel behind them shook violently. The collector's scream, metal scraping against stone, echoed toward them. Evan grabbed Lyra's arm. Open it now." Lyra placed her palm on the glowing symbols. The door scanned her hand and clicked softly, recognizing her energy. With a slow, heavy groan, the metal door slid open, releasing a burst of cold air and pale blue light. Inside was a large chamber filled with old technology. small pods, and a huge glowing crystal at the center. The crystal pulsed slowly, like a beating heart. Evan stepped inside cautiously. What is this place? Lyra's eyes glowed brighter as she looked around. My parents helped build these sanctuaries before the war. They were meant to protect young ones like me. Evan looked at her. Then why didn't they bring you here? She swallowed quietly. They didn't have time. A heavy thud shook the tunnel again. The collector was close. Too close. Evan rushed to the giant crystal. Does this thing help us escape? Lyra approached the crystal slowly, almost afraid. This crystal holds our energy. The same energy the collector wants from me. That explained everything. That explained why it hunted her. If it collected enough alien heart energy, it could power weapons. Machines, entire armies. Evan clenched his jaw. How do we stop it? Before Lyra could answer, the metal claws of the collector punched through the tunnel wall. Dust exploded everywhere. The machine forced its massive head into the chamber, its glowing red eye scanning rapidly. Lyra screamed and hid behind Evan, who raised the rusty rifle again. It wouldn't kill the machine, but it might slow it down. The collector extended a claw toward Lyra. She stepped back, heart pounding. It wants the crystal's energy. Or mine, she whispered. The machine roared, a sound that shook the entire chamber. Evan acted without thinking. He jumped in front of the claw and fired a burst of light at the machine's eye. The shot hit but barely scratched it. The collector swung its second claw, throwing Evan across the chamber. He hit the floor hard, gasping in pain. Evan. Lyra cried. The collector turned back toward her. Its eyes shifted from red to bright blue. It recognized her energy. It took one heavy step toward her, and then Lyra felt it, a strange warmth inside her chest. A pulse, a connection to the glowing crystal. As if it were calling her, she stepped toward it slowly. The collector lunged. No, Evan shouted, forcing himself up. But Lyra reached out and touched the crystal. Light exploded across the chamber blue, bright, alive. The collector screeched as the energy hit it like a shockwave. Its claws crackled and sparked. Its legs collapsed. The machine shook violently, its eye dimming. Evan shielded his face from the blast. When the light faded, the collector lay motionless on the ground, smoking and broken. Lyra's hand was still on the crystal. She looked back at Evan with wide eyes. I didn't know I could do that. Evan walked toward her slowly, still in pain but smiling. You saved us, Lyra. For the first time in years, she felt something new inside her chest. Something warm, something hopeful. Not fear, not loneliness, but strength, and Evan saw it too. The chamber's blue light slowly faded, leaving behind only the soft hum of the crystal and the heavy silence of the underground. Dust floated in the air like tiny stars. The collector's broken body twitched once, twice. Then went completely still. Lyra stepped back from the crystal, her small fingers trembling. She had never used her energy like that before. Her chest still felt warm, as if the crystal had left a spark inside her. Evan walked toward her with careful steps, holding his ribs where the machine had thrown him. Are you okay? He asked, breathing hard. Lyra nodded slowly, but her glowing eyes were filled with fear, not of the machine, but of herself. What did I do? She whispered. I didn't mean to. Evan gently placed a hand on her shoulder. You protected us, he said. That's what matters. Lyra looked at her hands as if they belonged to someone else. She wasn't used to power. She wasn't used to doing anything except waiting. And now something inside her felt awake for the first time. Before she could speak, Evan scanned the chamber. We need to move before this thing wakes up again. Machines like these don't die easily. Lyra's fear returned instantly. You think it will get up? It might, he said honestly. And I'm not taking any chances. He walked to the tunnel that led deeper underground. The old refuge chamber had 2 exits, one behind the crystal, leading to unknown tunnels. Come on, he said. We go deeper. Maybe there's a way out ahead. Lyra followed him, though her legs were weak from fear and exhaustion. Every few steps, she looked back at the fallen machine, half expecting it to rise again. They entered a long corridor, lit by dim blue strips on the walls. Unlike the old bunker, this part felt untouched, almost sacred, built with her people's technology. Lyra spoke softly, her voice echoing down the hallway. My parents helped build these places. They wanted every child to have a safe escape during the war. Evan glanced at her. You were supposed to come here, weren't you? She lowered her head. They tried. But soldiers blocked the path. They had only seconds. So they told me to wait on the platform. Her voice shook. I thought they would come back. I kept believing. Every sunrise. I told myself, today they will return. But the collector came instead. Evan stopped walking and turned toward her. Lyra, listen to me. She looked up, tears shining in her glowing eyes. You weren't wrong to wait. You were following the last thing your parents told you. He crouched down so his eyes met hers. But now you don't have to wait anymore. You're not alone. Lyra blinked slowly, trying to understand the feeling rising inside her. Why do you care so much? She asked. You're human. I thought humans only want our energy. Evan shook his head softly. There are good humans and bad humans. Same as any species. He smiled faintly. And I'm one of the good ones, at least. I try to be. Lyra watched him carefully. His clothes were torn. His hands were shaking. His face showed pain. Yet he still walked ahead of her, protecting her every second. Evan, she whispered. You're hurt. It's nothing, he said. I've been through worse. Her small hand touched his sleeve gently. I don't want you to get hurt because of me. He straightened up. You're not the reason I'm hurt. That machine is. Then he added softly, and you're worth protecting. Lyra felt something break inside her, a wall she had built around her heart for years. A wall made from loneliness and fear. Now a human had broken it with simple kindness. Suddenly, the ground above them rumbled. Evan stiffened. That sounded too close. Lyra grabbed his arm. Is it another collector? Maybe, he whispered. Or maybe the same one. Waking up. The lights flickered. A sharp metal echo traveled through the tunnel behind them. Evan pulled Lyra forward. Run now. They rushed deeper until they reached another chamber smaller. Filled with old equipment and a giant display screen covered in dust. Evan wiped the screen with his sleeve. To his surprise, it flickered on. Lines of alien code appeared. And then a message. Lyra's eyes widened. It's a recording. The screen brightened and the faces of her parents appeared. Her mother's gentle smile. Her father's tired but warm eyes. Lyra fell to her knees. Her hands shook violently. Imama. Evan stood beside her, placing a hand on her back as the recording began to play. And the truth she had waited years for was finally about to be revealed. Asterisk. The recording flickered like a candle struggling in the wind. Then the faces on the screen became clear. Lyra's mother looked tired but calm. Her dark blue hair was tied back, her eyes glowing softly, just like Lyra's. Beside her stood Lyra's father, taller, protective, a brave look hidden behind exhaustion. Lyra's heart stopped. She crawled closer to the screen, her small hands trembling. Mama? Papa? She whispered. Evan knelt beside her quietly. He knew these few seconds would change everything for her. The recording began. Lyra. Her mother said gently, forcing a smile even as alarms echoed behind her in the video. If you are watching this, Then we did not return. Lyra's breath caught in her throat. Her fingers pressed against the screen as if she could climb inside it. Her father spoke next, his voice low and steady. "We told you to wait so that you would stay safe. We had no other choice. Soldiers had surrounded us. The collector was coming, and we could not let it find you." In the background of the recording, metal footsteps thundered. The same sound she heard every time it hunted her. Her mother knelt closer to the camera. "Listen, my little star. We didn't leave because we wanted to. We left because we had to save you." Tears streamed down Lyra's cheeks. She had waited years, believing she had been abandoned. But they didn't abandon her. They protected her. A loud crash shook the video. The camera trembled. Her father turned sharply toward the door. "It's breaking through." Her mother looked back to the screen, voice urgent now. "Lyra, if someone finds you, trust them. Your energy must not fall into the wrong hands. Promise me, Lyra. Don't let the collector take you. And don't wait forever." Her father returned for one final second. His face softened. "We love you, always." Then the screen turned black. Silence filled the chamber, heavy, painful, breaking Lyra from the inside. She collapsed forward, sobbing quietly. Evan didn't speak. He didn't try to stop her tears. He simply placed a hand gently on her back and let her cry. For years she had stood alone, believing her parents might return. Now she finally knew the truth. They had died, saving her, not abandoning her. When her tears slowed, she whispered, "My parents. They loved me. They didn't leave me." Evan nodded softly. "They loved you more than anything. That's why they fought so hard." Lyra wiped her eyes, still shaking. "But what do I do now? I have no one left." Evan turned her gently so she faced him. "You have me," he said simply, "and I'm not leaving you." Her glowing eyes widened. It was the first time anyone had ever said those words to her since her parents disappeared. Before she could answer, the chamber lights flickered violently. A sharp metal scream echoed through the tunnels closer this time. The collector was not dead. And now it was furious. Evan grabbed Lyra's hand and pulled her toward the maintenance path. "We need to get out of here before that thing reaches us." Lyra hesitated, glancing back at the dark screen where her parents' faces had just been. Evan squeezed her hand. "They wouldn't want you to stay. They wanted you to live." She took a shaky breath and nodded. They entered a narrow passage behind the chamber. The tunnel led upward toward the surface. The sound of metal claws scraping rock grew louder behind them. Evan whispered, "It's following our heat signals." Lyra's voice trembled. "It wants my energy. The same energy in that crystal. If it takes it, more machines will be built." Evan slowed and knelt so he was eye level with her. "Then we don't let it take anything. Understand?" Lyra nodded again, stronger this time, as they climbed the steep tunnel. A cold wind swept toward them, fresh air from the surface. They were close, but then a violent crash. Metal roared behind them. The collector burst into the tunnel, its red eye burning with rage. Sparks flew as it forced its massive body upward, crushing the rock under its legs. Evan pulled Lyra ahead. "Run!" They sprinted upward as the monster chased them, each impact shaking the tunnel. Lyra's heart pounded, not from fear, but because for the first time. She wasn't running alone. They burst out of the ground, reaching the ruined forest above. But the collector climbed out seconds later, rising like a metal demon under the fading sunlight. Evan raised his weapon, even though it was nearly useless. Lyra stepped beside him, glowing faintly. Evan looked at her. "You ready?" She took a deep breath. "Yes. For the first time, I am." The collector screamed and charged. Lyra's energy lit the ground beneath her feet. The real battle for her future had just begun. The air cracked with tension as the collector rose from the tunnel like a metal beast reborn. Its red eye blazed with fury, and every step shook the ground as if the earth itself feared its return. Smoke drifted from its damaged joints, sparks flying with each movement. But its hunger for Lyra's energy burned stronger than ever. Evan pushed Lyra behind an old fallen tree. "Stay low. Don't move unless I tell you." Lyra shook her head firmly. "No, I won't hide anymore." Evan looked at Herzmal, fragile, glowing softly in the dying light, and shook his head in disbelief. "You're brave. Too brave for your age." Lyra didn't smile. Her parents had died fighting this machine. She wasn't running again. "Not today," the collector screeched, its voice like ripping metal. Then it stormed forward, claws digging deep into the soil. Evan ran out first because if anyone should draw the machine's attention, it should be him, not her. He fired the rifle, each blast a burst of weak blue light hitting the collector's armor. The impacts barely scratched it, but they made it notice him. The collector's eye locked onto Evan. Its claws snapped open. Evan whispered under his breath, "Come on. Look at me, not her. Come on." The machine lunged. Lyra screamed, "Evan." Evan dove aside just in time as a claw smashed the ground, sending dirt flying. He rolled, grabbed a metal pipe from the forest floor, and swung at one of the machine's exposed wires. Sparks exploded, but the collector didn't slow. It roared and charged again. Evan stumbled back, out of breath. He knew this was a losing fight. He knew he had no real weapon. But he refused to step aside. Lyra saw the danger, saw Evan about to be crushed, and something inside her snapped. The crystal's energy still glowed faintly in her chest. She didn't know how to control it, but she knew what she had to do. She stepped out from behind the tree. "Stop," she shouted, her voice trembling but powerful. The collector froze its eye, shifting from red to blue, as it detected her presence. Evan turned toward her in shock. "Lyra." Nitrogen monoxide, but it was too late. The machine recognized her energy signature. It began to advance. Lyra took a deep breath and placed both hands on the ground. Heat warm and electric traveled through her arms. The earth beneath her feet glowed with soft blue veins of light. The collector lunged. Lyra closed her eyes. A burst of energy exploded from her body, forming a bright shield that slammed into the machine like a hurricane of light. The collector flew backward, crashing into a cluster of trees. Metal cracked, gears screamed, and fragments scattered across the forest floor. Evan shielded his face from the blast, stunned. Lyra. She didn't answer. Her eyes were closed, breath uneven, body trembling from the power she had released. Lyra. Evan ran toward her. He caught her as she collapsed to her knees. "I don't know how I did that," she whispered weakly. "You did it because you're stronger than you think," Evan said, holding her tightly. But the fight wasn't over. A deep mechanical rumble shook the ground. The collector stood again, legs broken, chest plate shattered. One claw missing, but still rising, it let out a glitching scream and crawled toward Lyra, burning with desperation. Evan stepped in front of her. "No, you're done." He picked up a sharp metal shard from the ground, a piece blown off the collector itself, and when the machine lunged, Evan stabbed the shard deep into its glowing core. The collector froze. Its eye flickered. Sparks erupted violently. Then, with a final metallic roar, the machine collapsed. Smoke pouring from its body. The forest went silent. Lyra stared at the fallen machine, tears gathering in her glowing eyes. "It's over. It's really over." Evan nodded, sitting beside her on the cold ground. "You're safe now, for the first time in years." Lyra leaned her head on his shoulder. Her voice was soft, small, but filled with something new. Hope. What happens now? She whispered. Evan looked at the fading sunset through the trees. You don't have to wait anymore, he said. You get to choose your own path now. And if you want. He paused, then smiled gently. You can walk it with me. Lyra blinked up at him, her eyes shining like tiny stars. You? You mean I don't have to be alone? Never again, he said firmly. Lyra took a deep breath and looked at the place where the collector lay defeated. For years, she stood still, waiting for a past that would never return. Now she was finally free. Together. Evan and Lyra walked away from the forest, the first step she had taken freely since the day her parents disappeared, and as the stars filled the sky above them, Lyra whispered softly, Mama? Papa, I'm not waiting anymore. I'm moving forward. Evan smiled. And I'm right beside you. That night, a lonely alien girl finally left the place she waited for years, not in fear, not in pain, but with a human who gave her a future worth living for. Phi moment complete. The human didn't just save her life, he gave her hope.